Trinity test had been executed in New Mexico, the people from Trinity had arrived in the Marianas, and they had with them at that particular time colored photographs of the Trinity explosion. So we got the gang together, and we showed them. We didn't use the word atomic bomb. We did not use that, but we said, okay, now this is the bomb. This is what will happen when we make our flight tomorrow and release it. This is what we're going to see. So with this preliminary indoctrination, we got into the airplane and took off. Once we were airborne and in the air, I then left the pilot's seat of the airplane and I crawled back into the back where the enlisted men were. I got them all together back there and we poured some coffee out of the thermos jugs, and I told them actually what we were doing and what we were carrying at that time. And the weather being clear at our primary, which was Hiroshima, there was no decision left. I mean, we were on the way to the primary. So that part of it was perfectly routine. As we came in from our initial point to the bomb release point, it was again routine. We were bothered not in the least by any kind of fighter opposition, no flak. We didn't see anything to cause us any concern, so that we were able to concentrate strictly on the bombing problem. The bomb was released. We executed our turn away as we had been directed. The bomb blast hit us. It hit us in two different shock waves, the first being the stronger. This, as I say, was a perfectly unexciting and routine thing up until the point of taking a look at the damage that had been done. And then it was a little bit hard to realize. It was kind of inconceivable as to what we were looking at there. We passed comments back and forth in the airplane. We took pictures. And by the time we had done that, I became concerned that we better quit being sightseers and get out of there. And we were gone and off of the coast in a matter of about 20 minutes from the time that the bomb was released.
We have spent more than $2 billion on the greatest scientific gamble in history, and we have won.
The Navy Department says that it's too early yet to tell what effect the atomic bomb will have on Japanese morale, and that we may have to destroy 4 or 5 cities before they actually believe we have such a bomb.
Having found the atomic bomb, we have used it. We shall continue to use it until we completely destroy Japan's power to make war. Only a Japanese surrender will stop us. It is an awful responsibility which has come to us. We thank God that it has come to us instead of to our enemies. And we pray that He may guide us to use it in His ways and for His purposes.
Captain Behan, what was your most outstanding experience on this historic flight?
I suppose it was when the clouds opened up over the target at Nagasaki. The target was there pretty as a picture. I made the run, let the bomb go. That was my greatest thrill.
There was no atheist in a foxhole, and men who never prayed before lifted tired and bloodshot eyes to heaven
that city where the first atomic bomb was dropped?
Yes, Fred. We flew over Hiroshima for about half an hour.
It was a shambles, huh?
A shambles. It looked like Ebbets Field after a doubleheader with the Giants.
The group had been told to select some targets in Japan that had not been bombed. In other words, they wanted virgin targets. And the reason behind it, even though not given to the group at that time, the reason behind it was that they wanted to be able to make bomb blast studies or bomb damage studies on virgin targets once the bombs were used. They were definitely military targets. There was no question about that. And they offered such a, well, you could almost say a classroom experiment as far as being able to determine later the bomb damage. I have been subjected many times to criticism. I have been accused of being insane, being a drunkard, being everything that you can imagine a derelict to be as a result of a guilty conscience for doing this. And as I say, no one's ever come to my defense in that regard. I look at it this way, that my part in this thing may well have been something that later or now that the U.S. government might be looking at somewhat with a guilt complex. And the feeling could be that the less said about it by the United States government, the better.
June 30th, 1946. Almost time. Another 5 seconds. 2. 5:30. A spuming column of smoke 9 miles into the sky. Blinding light stronger than the sun. Bikini Atoll. Present site of Operation Crossroads and the 4th atom bomb explosion. Bikini Atoll, where 200 warships will be anchored, 140 planes, 200 goats, 200 pigs, 4,000 rats. How will this 4th bomb affect you? What do you know of this atom bomb?
The bomb will not start a chain reaction in the water, converting it all to gas and letting all the ships on all the oceans drop down to the bottom. It will not blow out the bottom of the sea and let all the water run down the hole. It will not destroy gravity. I am not an atomic playboy, as one of my critics labeled me, exploding these bombs to satisfy my personal whim.
Thus, the natives expressed to the people of the United States their welcome, despite the fact that the atoll of Bikini may be utterly destroyed come July the 1st. But to the natives, in their simplicity and their pleasantness and their courtesy, they're more than willing to cooperate, although they don't understand the world of nuclear energy any more than we do, and though they have no way of understanding what the test is all about.
Scene 26, take 2.
Hi, Commodore.
Go ahead, James. Tell them that the Commodores explained the atomic bomb to you.
Orang colong na inin, pokokang korragajur, yang kejar balingan, tukot wan mawakal.
All right now, James, will you tell them that the United States government now wants to turn this great destructive force into something good for mankind, and that this experiments here at Bikini are the first step in that direction?
American military government, I within Kajarbal Kajuran Pokanga, Mugodangan, Menoyaman, Emijoricino, Ibigini.
Now they have heard of our plan for their evacuation. Will you ask King Judah to get up and tell us now what his people think and if they're willing to go?
Yago kumarong tuwa wina karo air gina magut inem koi chuda gin kajid gin army jirana am uwa wina Ireland. Wami lemak kijilangan rongrik. Amman meno dem ji regilo benani. Everything good and they're willing to go and everything is God's hand.
Well, you tell them in King Judah that everything being in God's hands, it cannot be other than good.
American officials discussed plans with the Bikini natives for the evacuation of the atoll. The islanders are a nomadic group and are well pleased that the Yanks are going to add a little variety to their lives.
And here, by the way, you hear them singing their Marshallese version of You Are My Sunshine.
And I have just been interrupted. 30 seconds. That's the voice of the control strip marking the seconds remaining. The final switches have been thrown. No one can stop it. The atomic bomb is about to explode. Time. How it will sound, 20 seconds. We do not know how it's going to sound, but 42,000 men here are watching. All of the observer ships. 10 seconds. All of the observer ships are in position in the open sea. We're about 10 miles away. I can see the target. 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the background was the growing struggle between two great powers to shape the post-war world. Soviet Russia was expansively stabbing westward, knifing into nations left empty by war. On orders from the Kremlin, Russia had launched one of history's most drastic political, moral, and economic wars, a Cold War. The United States was obliged to help Europe safeguard its traditional freedoms and the independence of its nations. Gone was the spirit of wartime unity that reached its peak on that historic afternoon in April '45 at the Elbe River in Germany. Here, two worlds actually met, but this coalition was to be torn asunder. Already an iron curtain had dropped around Poland, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria.
Ah, but this is Europe, you say. But let's see what can happen elsewhere in, say, the small town of Mosinee, Wisconsin. Peaceful, isn't it? But the red truncheon falls and the chief of police is hustled off to jail. Next, public utilities are seized by fifth colonists. Watch carefully what happens to an editor who operates under a free press. He goes to jail, too, and his newspaper is confiscated. Exit freedom of thought. Yes, this is life under the Soviet form of government. The little town of Mosinee made this experiment for 24 hours, a public service to all America. It can't happen here? Well, this is what it looks like if it should.
Fortunately, we can move the clock back. The time is not yet. And let us pray that it never happens in our country. Before we meet the members of the American Legion Post 279 who helped make this picture possible, I'd just like to say that it gives me a great deal of satisfaction to represent two outstanding shopping centers in California, the shopping hub of the San Gabriel Valley in West Arcadia, and the Whittier Quad Shopping Center in Whittier, California, because they are concrete expressions of the practical idealism that built America. When you visit these two fine shopping centers, you'll find more than 80 beautiful stores with sparkling assortments, an attractive atmosphere, and of course, plenty of free parking for all the cars that we capitalists seem to acquire. Who can help but contrast the beautiful, the practical settings of the Arcadia shopping hub and the Whittier Quad with what you'd find under communism?
It's not safe to hope for the best without preparing for the worst. Our object is not aggression. We need not become militaristic, but we must keep our Army, our Navy, our Air Force at ready strength. We must back up our team for security.
Well, I guess there's nothing for us to worry about. We're the ones that have the bomb.
The atom bomb explodes again in the headlines of the world. In Washington, the chairman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Atomic Energy, Senator Brian McMahon, gives his reaction to Russia's possession of the bomb.
This is no time for hysteria. This is no time for panic. This is a time for a calm reflection on the political and military implications of this transcendent event.
Everybody's worried about the atomic bomb, but nobody's worried about the day my Lord will come, when he'll hit great God Almighty like an atom bomb. When he comes, when he comes.
While the suit is made of this material, inside this layer is a shredded lead, a resistance against atomic rays. Okay, Richard, on your way to the air raid shelter. Let's go.
Everybody's worried about the atomic bomb, but nobody's worried about the day my Lord will come.
One immediate effect of the announcement of Russia's atom blast is to tighten security regulations at all atom installations. At Hanford, Washington, where $200 million is being spent, In the ever-expanding atomic government empire, the door is being locked, but tight. Ground guards are kept on their toes by constant target practice, and they have orders to shoot to kill at any suspicious stranger.
Highly trained and well-equipped North Korean army swarmed across the 38th parallel to attack unprepared South Korean defenders. Caught off guard, they were all but overwhelmed until the United Nations took its historic vote to intervene. The end of the war seemed in sight as the Allies pushed north toward the North Korean capital of Pyongyang. Then it happened. The Chinese Red Armies, numbering hundreds of thousands, swarmed over the frontier against thinly held United Nations positions. Confronted by overwhelming numbers, UN armies were forced into inevitable retreat, while men wondered whether Red China would touch off World War III. Would the atom bomb be the answer to the Chinese hordes? President Truman said that it was under consideration.
If the United Nations yields to the forces of aggression, no nation will be safe or secure. If aggression is successful in Korea, we can expect it to spread throughout Asia and Europe and to this hemisphere. We are fighting in Korea for our own national security and survival.
Time for the Longines Chronoscope. Our distinguished guest for this evening is the Honorable James E. Van Zandt, United States Congressman from Pennsylvania.
It's my opinion that we should fight the war to win in Korea, rather than try to settle it at the diplomatic table, which is impossible when you're dealing with Russia.
Would you extend your will to win so far as to include the atomic bomb?
Very definitely, Dr. Peterson. I've always been a firm believer that we should use the atomic bomb, not only on Korea, but north of the Yalu River in Manchuria.
Does that mean that you believe that it could be effectively used as a weapon in the Korean theater?
Yes, I think that there are several targets in northern Korea we could use. That is, we could destroy them with the atomic bomb. We could destroy them and contaminate them. And then, of course, there are targets in Manchuria that should be destroyed.
This is the destructive power we pray God we will never be called upon to hurl at any nation. But should it become necessary, let us not hesitate because it is foreign to our nature to use the power which has been given us.
I propose the President of the United States advise the commander of the North Korean troops to withdraw his forces beyond the 38th parallel within 1 week, or use that week to evacuate civilians from a specified list of North Korean cities that will be subjected to atomic attack by the United States Air Force.
There will soon be an end to this cold and wicked war when those hard-headed communists get what they're looking for. Only one thing that will stop them, and their atrocious fun. If General MacArthur drops an atomic bomb, there'll be fire, dust, and metal flying all around, and the radioactivity will burn into the ground. If there's any commies left, they'll be all on the run. If General MacArthur drops an atomic bomb.
I ask you, the American citizen, to let your congressman know how you feel about this proposal.
Well, I really don't know what to do.
But you do feel the Korean situation affects us more than anything else?
Yes, I feel that our boys that we should get our boys home. They've been over there long enough, and there doesn't seem to be any end to the situation.
Listen to what my mom said about how bad things are back home. Everybody's hoarding. Profiteers are getting fat contracts. Neighbors say politicians are using the war to their own advantage. And all our chief atomic scientists are spies. And a lot more.
Just take it with a grain of salt. Let me tell you how the commies plant propaganda back home. Some time ago, Mac, Johnny, and I managed to get our last leave together in a big city.
These poor boys will shed their innocent blood in a war that this country is provoking.
Hey, get a load of that.
Asiatic people all want the peaceful establishment of native regimes without the interference of United States troops. Communists don't want war. War would be world suicide. Only communist countries can guarantee you peace.
Why don't you go live in a communist country then? You blow your top on a street corner there? You look pretty well off, sister, to be tearing down the country that gives you freedom of speech.
We're living in a country that's the finest place on earth, but some folks don't appreciate this land that gave them birth. I hear that up in Washington they're having an awful fuss, 'cause communists and spies are making monkeys out of us.
The question is, have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? You refuse to answer that question. Is that correct?
I have told you that I will offer my beliefs, my affiliations, and everything else to the American public, and they will know where I stand, as they do from what I have written.
Stand away from the stand.
For Americanism for many years, and I shall
stand away from the stand.
Fight for the Bill of Rights, which you are trying to destroy.
Stand away from the stand.
The bureaus and departments have been busy night and day. They're figuring out just how we gave our secrets all away. And Congress has appointed a committee, so they said, to find out who's American and who's a low-down red.
I am holding in my hand a microfilm of very highly confidential, secret State Department documents. These documents were fed out of the State Department over 10 years ago by communists who were employees of that department and who were interested in seeing that these documents were sent to the Soviet Union, where the interests of the Soviet Union happened to be in conflict with those of the United States.
I'm no communist, and I'll tell you that right now. I believe a man should own his own house and car and cow. I like this private ownership, and I want to be left alone. Let the government run its business, and let me run my own.
Our education is proceeding apace as to how Russia operates and how they got the atom bomb. Not by independent research, but from America, from traitors within our own ranks.
Special broadcast on the scene at Sing Sing Prison, where the Rosenbergs have just been executed.
Julius and Ethel Rosenberg have gone to the electric chair. First to go into the death chamber was Julius Rosenberg. He wore an impassive expression on his face. He walked in slowly. He was preceded by a rabbi who was chanting the 23rd Psalm, which everyone knows very well. He proceeded immediately over to the chair. He didn't say a word to anyone, hardly glanced at anyone. He sat down in the chair, the straps were applied, and the first jolt of electricity was sent through his body at 8:04 tonight.
She died a lot harder. When it appeared that she had received enough electricity to kill an ordinary person and had received the exact amount that had killed her husband, the doctors went over and pulled down the cheap prison dress, a little dark green printed job, and placed the I can't say it. Placed the stethoscopes to her and then looked around, looked at each other rather dumbfounded and seemed surprised that she was not dead. Believing she was dead, the attendants had taken off the ghastly strappings and electrodes and the black belts and so forth. And these had to be readjusted again, and she was given more electricity, which started again that kind of a ghastly plume of smoke that rose from her head and went up against the skylight overhead. After two more of those jolts, Ethel Rosenberg had met a maker. She'll have a lot of explaining to do, too. Thank you.
Immediately after the execution, of course, the bodies were taken away. There is nothing much further to report at this particular time. There have been no demonstrations. The heat has been extremely intense here. There's a heavy fall, and there has been an air of deep tension about this whole proceeding up here. But it is now all over. The newsmen have dispersed, and Julius and Ethel Rosenberg have gone to the electric chair.
That was an on-the-spot report on the execution tonight at Sing Sing prison of Ethel and Julius Rosenberg. Now the Great Day Show. As we join Red Benson and the gang at the Marine Barracks in Brooklyn Navy Yard, the program is already in progress.
The question before us is this: should the hydrogen bomb be built?
All the world knows we Americans are constructive, not destructive. However distasteful this may be to us, there is no choice in the matter. Let us build a bomb.
It is my decided opinion that the United States of America should immediately begin the construction of the H-bomb.
I feel we must make the H-bomb.
It is my personal opinion that we should manufacture and produce the H-bomb in quantity.
The Russians will try it anyhow. And should they learn the secret of its manufacture before we do, the life and security of all freedom-loving people will be in danger.
I would like to add, however, that the United States of America should not necessarily use this bomb, but rather look upon it as a peaceful guardian and protector of the basic American doctrines of liberty and democracy against the obstacles of red fascism's materialistic and atheistic philosophy.
If the communist bloc does attack, our radar sites and observers will sound the alert. Giant bombers will take to the air. Jet fighters will scream aloft. Fighters will account for some of the enemy, but some will get through to your home.
In
times of social crisis and tension, in times when changes come so thick and fast that the individual can no longer place himself in his group, when he knows that something is wrong but doesn't know what, when he feels himself a pawn, in times like these, most men become highly suggestible. They listen eagerly for any voice which sounds authoritative. They listen eagerly for anyone who can tell them what is wrong and what to do to right it, who can diagnose their trouble and prescribe a cure.
Eisenhower, man of the hour. Eisenhower, man of the hour. We love the sunshine of your smile. We see our future in your eyes. You led on into victory. You are the one we idolize. I'm gonna give my vote to you.
I don't mean to say, and no one can say to you, that there are no dangers. Of course there are risks if we are not vigilant. But we do not have to be hysterical. We can be vigilant, we can be Americans. We can stand up and hold up our heads and say, America is the greatest force that God has ever allowed to exist on his footstool. As such, it is up to us to lead this world to a peaceful and secure existence. And I assure you, we can do it. Now, if we first take a look at the strength of America, you and I know that it's the most productive nation on earth, that we are richer by any standard of comparison than is any other nation in the world. We know that we have great military strength, economic, intellectual. But all in all, this total strength of America is one of those things we call, and the world calls, unbelievable. Why then, with all this strength, should we be worrying at times about what the world is doing to us? Actually, we see threats coming from all angles, internal and external, and we wonder what's going to happen to us individually and as a nation. Now, perhaps I can illustrate some of the reasons for this concern of today. Now, only a year ago, the hydrogen bomb was exploded in the Pacific. Last month, another series of these was undertaken. Now this transfer of power, this increase of power, from the mere musket and the little cannon, all the way to the hydrogen bomb in a single lifetime, is indicative of the things that have happened to us. They rather indicate how far the advances of science have outraced our social consciousness. How much more we have developed scientifically than we are capable of handling emotionally and intellectually. So that is one of the reasons that we have this great concern, of which the hydrogen bomb is merely a dramatic symbol.
Dad, I'm finished. Okay.
Me too. There's a new puzzle. Where is it?
On my bookcase.
Oh, thanks, Daddy.
Kenny, let's have some news. It's about that time.
Come on, Dad.
You can watch that show some other time. Okay. Thanks.
Anyone of intelligence and information is hoping and praying that we won't have a third world war, because in this age of the atomic weapon, a third world war would be a catastrophe for all mankind. And then finally, and this is quite significant, about 60% of the American people revealed in a study which we made through the University of Michigan a year ago that they believed that the military could stop the atomic bombs from falling upon the United States. Well, I'm sorry to have to tell you that the military will tell you that as of today, they cannot stop a successful Russian attack.
That can be corroborated rather dramatically, and we didn't plan it this way, Governor, but the floor manager has just handed me a bulletin saying that the Russians have just exploded a hydrogen bomb.
We must learn to live in a world where we have the hydrogen bomb and the enemy of freedom has the hydrogen bomb. It can destroy any city. That means Fort Worth and Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Amarillo, El Paso, yes, Johnson City.
Every dollar I make goes for taxes and bills. Perhaps they've discovered the cure for my ills. Oh, hi-ho, the hydrogen bomb. Bless it all. Oh, let it fall. Oh, hi-ho, the hydrogen bomb. Oh, God, have mercy on me.
The problem this time is especially acute because this entire area of the Pacific is subject to radiological fallout. And this area is inhabited by some 20,000 people.
The meteorologists had predicted a wind condition which should have carried the fallout to the north of the group of small atolls lying to the east of Bikini. The wind failed to follow the predictions, but shifted south of that line, and the little islands of Rongelet, Rongerik, and Uterik were in the edge of the path of the fallout. The task force commander promptly evacuated all the people from these islands. They were taken to the island of Kwajalein, where we maintain a naval establishment, and there placed under continuous and competent medical supervision. I visited them there last week. Today, a full month after the event, the medical staff on Kwajalein have advised us that they anticipate no illness, barring, of course, diseases which may be hereafter contracted. The 236 natives appear to me to be well and happy. The survey aircraft carefully searched the area and reported no shipping. A Japanese fishing trawler appears to have been missed by the search, but based on a statement attributed to her skipper, to the effect that he saw the flash of the explosion and heard the concussion 6 minutes later, it must have been well within the danger area.
At the time of the explosion, the tuna ship had been sailing far outside the designated safe area of a 75-mile radius. 3 hours after the H-bomb had been detonated, a downpour of radioactive ash descended on the Fortunate Dragon and its crew of 23. None of them knew the nature of the deadly snow. It was 3 days more before the ship and its contaminated crew and fishing catch sailed into port. By that time, the men suffered from the beginning symptoms of deadly radiation poisoning. By the time their illnesses had been properly diagnosed, the hot fish brought back in their holds had been sold into markets all over Japan. A panic ensued. Midnight burials of recent catches in the vicinity of the H-bomb explosion took place all over Japan. The bottom had dropped out of the fish market, and the Japanese people chose to do without the staple food for a long time after the tragic affair.
Another byproduct of the stupendous mid-Pacific blast unfolds in San Francisco, where tuna fish, supposedly made radioactive during the tests,
are scrutinized by federal agents armed with Geiger counters for signs of contamination.
Hot tea, anyone? That's not an invitation. It's a problem brewed for the Coast Guard and Customs by the arrival in Brooklyn of a cargo of Japanese tea slightly radioactive. Final conclusion, the tea's radioactivity is within safety limits, not too hot to handle.
Warm. Yeah, June and January, that's what I say. If you ask me, I think it's because of those atom bombs.
Yeah?
Yeah, they've done some cockeyed things to the world. I think they've knocked us south of the equator.
Like I keep saying, well, everybody's so uncertain about everything. They don't seem to know what's going to happen.
Bourbon. Straight.
Well, as I was saying, I wouldn't worry nearly as much about the atom bomb if it were to kill you right out. What scares me is that awful gas that deforms you.
Yeah. That would be bad.
Yeah.
A drink that you don't pour. Now when you take one sip, you won't need any more. As small as a beetle, or big as a whale. Boom, atomic cocktail.
Corporal, could you give me your name and hometown address?
My name is Corporal George Molan, and I'm from Elmhurst, Illinois.
I'm Tech Sergeant George Portell from Dorchester, Massachusetts.
Jerry Snyder from Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Sergeant Weaver.
Where are you from, Sergeant Weaver?
Columbus, Georgia.
Where are you from, Rogers?
Portland, Oregon.
Where are you from?
New York City.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Liberal, Kansas.
Jefferson City, Missouri.
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Fort Worth, Arizona.
Kenny, Kansas.
Leesburg, New Jersey.
Gentlemen, I want to welcome you to Camp Desert Rock. This will be your last briefing before you go out to the forward area and take part in an atomic detonation.
The tactical situation behind Troop Test Smoky is this. The mythical enemy, which has landed on the coast of California, has made a deep penetration close to supply, special weapons storage, and missile launching installations in the vicinity of Las Vegas and Hoover Dam. The tactical commander decided at this point to use an atomic weapon in his assault on the enemy. The mission of these men is to move as quickly as possible into the blasted area and exploit the breach in the enemy lines.
You are here to participate in an atomic maneuver. This is not a haphazard maneuver. Careful planning for it started months back. Watched from a safe distance, this explosion is one of the most beautiful sights ever seen by man. You're probably saying, so it's beautiful. What makes it so dangerous? Basically, there are only three things to think about. Blast, heat, and radiation. Radiation. This is the one new effect obtained by the use of an atomic weapon. Truthfully, It's the least important of the three effects, as far as the soldier on the ground is concerned. You can't see radiation, feel it, smell it, or taste it. Film badges and dosimeters issued to you enable the radiological safety monitor in your unit to read the amount of your exposure. The radiation level may be high, but if you follow orders, you'll be moved out in time to avoid sickness. Finally, if you receive enough gamma radiation to cause sterility or severe sickness, you'll be killed by blast, flying debris, or heat anyway. Well, that's the story. Don't worry about yourselves. As far as the test is concerned, you'll be okay.
Well, we knew now exactly where we'd be for the big show. All we had to do was wait. Now that it's so close, it makes you feel kind of restless.
You wonder if everything's going to turn out all right. It filled your mind no matter what you were doing.
What seems to be the trouble, soldier? You look a little bit worried.
Well, I am, Chaplain. Just a little bit.
Actually, there's no need to be worried, as the Army has taken all of the necessary precautions to see that we're perfectly safe here.
Sir, have you ever been out on one of these shots before?
Yes, I've had the opportunity to see a number of the atomic tests. I feel that as a chaplain, it is my responsibility to be with my men.
What's it like, Chaplain?
First of all, one sees a very, very bright light, followed by a shock wave, and then you hear the sound of the blast, and then it seems as though there's a minor earthquake. And then you look up and you see the fireball as it ascends up into the heaven. It's a wonderful sight to behold.
Shock passes in a matter of seconds, and the heat and blast effects you can see and feel. You cannot sense the presence of nuclear radiation effects. Alpha and beta particles, because of their low penetrating power, are stopped by most surfaces, even a soldier's skin. They are a hazard only when materials emitting these particles get into the body through breaks in the skin, or through the nose or mouth.
Did you keep your mouth shut, or did you get a mouthful of dirt?
I got a mouthful and a face full of dirt.
How about all that smoke and dust and radiation? What you couldn't see. You couldn't see for quite a spell. Just a haze.
Very young, did you wear any type of protective clothing, or just what did you wear?
No, just regular GI white clothes.
We see pinned on your lapels here this white badge. Can you tell me what that is?
That's a film badge to determine, to detect the amount of radiation you've received in the area.
And they can tell from that if you received a lethal dose. Is that right?
That's right, they can.
If you were driving from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City on U.S. Highway 91, you'd pass through St. George, Utah, just a short way from the Nevada test site 140 miles to the west.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news. Word has just been received from the Atomic Energy Commission that due to a change in wind direction, the residue from this morning's atomic detonation is drifting in the direction of St. George. It is suggested that everyone remain indoors for 1 hour or until further notice. There is no danger. This is simply routine Atomic Energy Commission safety procedure. Parents need not be alarmed about children at school. No recesses outdoors will be permitted.
And as the people at St. George took cover, it was natural that some of them had questions about atomic tests.
What is the atomic bomb?
Why do we have to test bombs?
How little an amount of radiation will cause how many mutations?
Never before have so many known so little about a subject so big and so important. The capabilities of most weapons are pretty well understood, but when it comes to atomic explosions, the guessing game starts. All right, let's take a few minutes right now and get acquainted with an A-bomb. Meet Test Able.
A submarine bomb exploded in a harbor might affect a city. The affected area would be a poor picnic site, but might be entered briefly or passed through quickly with a varying degree of risk. Risk is something the military doesn't have a corner on. Occupational hazards are accepted in a matter-of-fact manner in civilian life. Risk is part of the pattern of daily routine. Some of the falsehoods circulated about radiation effects are trivial, but upsetting. They're beamed right at one's self-esteem.
And will eventually result in a race of bald-headed people. Just imagine it. Imagine yourself with no hair. They'll call you old skinhead, old chrome dome. And that's not all radioactivity will do. It will...
Enough exposure to radiation will cause loss of hair. The treatment, if you'd insist, would be symptomatic. A toupee. But the condition would only be temporary. Your hair would come back. Same color, same cowling. Which puts the finger squarely upon one of the major fallacies in the public attitude toward atomic weapons. It's the fallacy of devoting 85% of one's worrying capacity to an agent that constitutes only about 15% of an atomic bomb's destroying potential. And that's unsound. Doesn't fit.
There are those few who loudly maintain that there is no actual threat to the free world at all. Certainly none that can justify either nuclear testing or nuclear armament. The opposite viewpoint holds that the development of our nuclear power has been an absolutely necessary protection against communist hostility and nuclear threats. In this view, the fallout casualties, if any, will be seen as those of unidentified soldiers in the service of humanity. Unknown soldiers in a war which has not struck.
We're going to be talking about nuclear energy and the kinds of things that could happen with an atomic emergency. And we do this not to worry you, but or frighten you, but really, we've got to admit we live in an atomic age. There is an atomic bomb. So we have to be aware of this and know what to do in case an emergency happens.
If there will be a need to spend 2 weeks in a fallout shelter, we have packed our survival kit. For the food supply, pack a variety of fruits, soups, evaporated milk, vegetables, napkins.
The purpose of our demonstration today is to show you the actual preparation of one of the meals which was prepared in a modern-day cave.
One noon meal consisted of the following food: canned chicken, peas, potatoes, tomato juice,
My poster's on the defenses against fallout. And if you're caught outside during a nuclear explosion, decontamination may be necessary. You may have to burn or bury all your clothes and food, and afterwards you should wash thoroughly.
John, let me interrupt you here just a moment. I have some film here that I think will describe what might happen.
Good.
And we'll describe a little about the atom. So, Joey, why don't you catch the lights and we'll try it. Okay?
Good.
Deedle-dum-dum, there was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
Now, you and I don't have shells to crawl into like Bert the turtle, so we have to cover up in our own way. Paul and Patty know this. No matter where they go or what they do, they always try to remember what to do if the atom bomb explodes right then. It's a bomb. Duck and cover. Here's Tony going to his Cub Scout meeting. Tony knows the bomb can explode any time of the year, day or night. Duck and cover. Atta boy, Tony. That flash means act fast. Sundays, holidays, vacation time, we must be ready every day, all the time, to do the right thing if the atomic bomb explodes. Duck and cover. That's the first thing to do. Duck and cover. First, you duck. And then, you cover. You duck and cover tight. Duck and cover under the table. It's a bomb. Duck and cover. 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 Duck and cover yourself. Duck and cover. Duck and cover. Duck and cover.
He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. 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 Duck and cover.
Remember what to do, friends. Now tell me right out loud. What are you supposed to do when you see the flash?
Question.
Yes?
How far do you have to be from the blast to live through it?
Well, let's take a 20 megaton surface burst. You would have a good chance of surviving if you were more than 12 miles from the point of detonation.
A bomb equivalent to 20 million tons of TNT would cause an intense fire called a firestorm in an area of about 2,000 square miles around the center of the blast. And in such an area, it would be futile, desperately futile, to construct what are called fallout shelters.
This man, like thousands of others around the country, is suffering from a dread disease called nuclearosis. The symptoms? Nuclear blindness. All he can see is a mushroom cloud. He is blinded from the fear of it, deaf from the sound of it. There is a short circuit in his brain. He can only think of the awfulness of the nuclear bomb.
We ought to learn something from the Second World War in this respect. And the bombing there, even by Second World War bombs in Hamburg, in Tokyo, and in other cities, showed that shelters became centers for incinerating or asphyxiating the people who are in them.
A fallout shelter in your basement will give adequate shielding from radioactive fallout. Ah, he's finally getting the message. Are you?
A new housing development near Denver, Colorado shows the nation's first model homes with built-in fallout shelters. The room is designed with an atomic war in mind. But behind each 8-inch thick reinforced concrete wall, it may prove to be just what the harried housewife is looking for when life with the kids gets too hectic.
You don't think that shelters are a deterrent to a nuclear war either?
On the contrary, I believe that psychologically they will push both us and the Russians into thinking more of having a war.
There are some instances where you may be ahead of us. For example, in the development of the thrust of your rockets for the investigation of outer space. There may be some instances, for example, color television, where we're ahead of you. But in order for both of us to benefit, you never concede anything.
We wish you, it means success in that you show the actual possibilities of America. And we will be able to say, here are the possibilities of America. How long does it exist? How many years? 300? 150 years of independence? Then we will say that America can exist 150 years. Here is its level. We are 42 years, not quite. Another 7 years and we will be on the same level as America. Then in the future we will go ahead and we might overtake you at the crossroads.
This increase in communication will teach us some things, and it will teach you some things too. Because after all, you don't know everything.
If I don't know everything, then I would say that you know absolutely nothing about communism. Nothing except fear of it.
Let's say you got your family in your shelter. The attack is on. A question might come up of admitting anyone over and above the number for whom the shelter is designed. I'd say we should rely on the best prudential judgment that the father or the one responsible for the shelter can make in the circumstances. But I say let him think twice before he admits the needy stranger, if admitting the needy stranger is going to cut down the chances of survival of the group that's already there. And then that final point. Can a man have protective devices in order to protect his family once they are in the shelter from, let's say, strangers that try to use a crowbar to get in? I'd say, from what I have been talking about, the matter of self-defense, it would be wise for a man to at least weigh the possibility of putting some protective devices in his shelter together with the other elements of his survival kit.
All right, you've been down there 8 to 10 days. You come out and you find that half or three-quarters of Los Angeles has been destroyed. Well, how are you going to continue to live?
Well, the first thing we have to recognize that if half of Los Angeles is destroyed, maybe 80–90% of the people will be dead, and there will be fewer mouths to feed, and those of us who will survive will have more water and food to divide up.
Last night I was dreamed about the H-bomb. Well, the bomber went off and I was caught. I was the only man on the ground. There was 13 women and only one man in town. 13 women and only one man in town. And as funny as it may be, the one and only man in town is me. Well, 13 women and me, the only man around. I had 2 girls every morning.
Instant rice,
Seeing that I was well fed.
cornflakes,
Believe you me, one sweet
dried foods,
while another one buttered my bread.
cheese, macaroni, instant potatoes,
Something exploded down inside and rushed tears up in my eyes. Oh yes, I have that funny feeling. I guess it's my atomic love for you.
artillery and our tactical air force in the Pacific are now equipped at this moment with atomic explosives which can and will be used on military targets with precision and effectiveness. It's just...
On the steps of the nation's capital, the bell announcing the opening of Mental Health Week is rung by Vice President Nixon and Senator Smathers of Florida. Characterizing mental health as the nation's #1 problem, the Vice President says that the ringing of the bell throughout the nation will be a reminder of suffering Americans.
She's just the way they're gonna live in my fallout shelter.
It was a 50-mile town, a hydrogen, like a radiant atomic bomb.
By all means, provide some tranquilizers to ease the strain and monotony of life in a shelter. A bottle of 100 should be adequate for a family of 4. Tranquilizers are not a narcotic and are not habit-forming.
And by the way, do you know exactly what your family would do if an attack came? Say at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's a good question, isn't it?
As they were meant to, dearest.
George.
I drink this toast to my bride-to-be.
Darling. Darling, and I toast the most wonderful man in all the world.
Why, Lucy, your eyes are filled with tears.
My heart is filled with gladness. Oh, look. The orchestra's getting ready. Dance with me, George. George, I wonder if we've thought this through. I'm afraid for you, George.
Oh, nonsense, my silly imp.
Yes, George, afraid. My fiancé, Luther Marshall...
We interrupt our normal program in the interest of security and civil defense measures as requested by the United States government.
Attention, attention. This is an official civil defense warning. This is not a test. The United States is under nuclear attack. Take cover immediately in your area fallout shelter. Repeat, the United States is under nuclear attack.
This is an official civil defense broadcast.
Enemy aircraft are over Canada and headed this way. Normal broadcasting has been discontinued until after this emergency has passed. Nuclear attack. This is an extreme emergency. You are urged to remain calm. Proceed to your designated shelter without delay.
This is an official civil defense warning. This is not a test. The United States is under nuclear attack. Take cover immediately in your area fallout shelter. Repeat, the United States is under nuclear attack. Take cover immediately in your area fallout shelter.
Now, children, I want you to sit down here against the wall. That's it. Now, crouch tight up against it.
Now, listen, kids. If they're dropping an atomic bomb, it may go off any second now. Whatever happens, I'll give the signal when it's all right for us to get up. If there's an explosion, we'll wait about a minute after it's all over. Then we'll go upstairs and take a look around, see if it's all right for us to clean up. Children, you better clear up the broken glass and all this debris. All in all, I'd say we've been very lucky around here. Nothing to do now but wait for orders from the authorities and relax.
The sun goes down and leaves me sad and blue. The Iron Curtain falls on this cold war with you. Though you won't speak and I won't speak, that's true. Two stubborn people with a cold war to go through. Oh, why should love ever come to couples like you and me, whose cold, cold wars are never done, and whose hearts just can't be free? Oh, let's do right, or let's just say we're through. I just can't stand another cold, cold war with you. Should love ever come to couples like you and me, whose cold, cold wars are never done, and whose hearts just can't be free? Now let's do right, or let's just say we're through. I just can't stand